Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot. The comic spot. Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.
Alrighty, well, Facebook people, oftentimes you're not here watching when we're live, and that's okay. Don't worry. Just watch whenever you can. These are all done so that you at home can get to know comedians like who we have here today, Julie K. Comedy. You're going to love her. I met her in person about a week ago at Wise Guys and 18 Bin. She was here visiting in Vegas, and we got to know her really well and even see her perform. And she saw me perform, and it was a bonding time. I've wanted to interview her for a long time, and I never thought that she'd want me to, but she does. So here she is today. Woo! But before I go into that, I've got 3 sponsors to mention. My first sponsor is the veteransofcomedy.com. That's a website with a bunch of military veterans who sling jokes now. So anytime you're looking for somebody who used to, defend our country, that can defend what they're saying on stage, go to the veteransofcomedy.com and hire me or one of the guys, or just kidding. Just hire whoever you like. I have another sponsor. He's an artist, and he's in Portland, Oregon. He's on my friends list, Steve Solomon, all with the O's. And he takes my photos and makes them look really artsy. Yeah, he does.
Nice.
Yeah, and you can hire him for a song to take pictures and make them look so trendy. My third and brand new sponsor is the Giving Water. So they have bottled water, and I haven't been given a script of what I'm supposed to say for them, but they are really into making sure everybody in the world has water. I know that much so far. So Dawn, I think it's Dawn Reese here in Vegas, will sponsor you or come to your event and consider it. But they're very much into giving back to the community and sponsoring comedy. Dawn's a comedian as well. So now for today's show. And I know you're at home. What I don't know and what I don't want to know is I don't want to know if you have your pants on. Do not put it in the chat. Don't care. Not going to read the chat. So if you have questions, we will see them after. I'm lucky enough to just be in the moment. I've told you I have a brain injury. Can't expect a lot. I don't multitask. Anyway, so here we are today, and I have an intro to tell you of our guest. And like I told you, she's amazeballs. I met her a week ago in person. It's Julie K. So let me read you the bio she sent to me. Julie K is a stand-up comedian, host, life coach, doctor of psychology. I make it sound so easy. She's accomplishing all these things right now as we speak. Who's been seen on TLC's Strange Addiction, love that show, and the Dr. Phil House. Oh my gosh. She performs regularly at the La Jolla Comedy Store, the Roosevelt Theater, the Comedy Chateau, and Flappers Comedy Club. In her comedy, she addresses all the humor of the arduous journey to becoming a professional in our mental health system. Holy wow. She believes that humor is healing. Yeah. And it really is the best medicine. You go, girl. She has taken one for the team and lived to talk about it. Her mantra is humor can be found in almost all of life's challenges. Let me get down to the next paragraph. Currently, she's working on her 1-hour material for her upcoming comedy special and her 2022 tour across the United States and the UK. This lady, she continues to perform regularly on the Shindig Show, the Ha Ha Comedy Cafe, and host various shows all over Los Angeles and on Zoom. In her off time, you can find her drinking coffee on the beach. So let's all go to the beach. No, we don't have to. She's right here. Let's get to know her right now. Bring to the stage right here on Comic Spot, Julie K. Julie K. Comedy. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Hi. So nice that you're here. Thank you so much.
Linda, thank you so much for inviting me. And I also want to say thank you to your 3 sponsors for making this possible. And I love your sponsors, by the way. They all have great themes and purpose and mission to what they do. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So right now, today, you have a great background with juliekcomedy.com on there. And where exactly are you? Because you could be in Timbuktu, not in LA. Where are you today?
Today, I'm actually at one of my girlfriend's house because we both have a show tonight. So you met her, Ginny Sykes. She's a very well-known comedian in Los Angeles. And we're going to carpool together to a show we have in a couple of hours. So I'm actually right now in West Hollywood, California. But I live down by LAX airport. So I'm in Los Angeles, but we're on our way to a show. So yeah, I'm in West Hollywood right now.
Fabulous. Tell everybody where your show is going to be in case they're in the Hollywood area or West LA.
Yeah, so it's on La Brea. The name of the restaurant is called the Berkshire House, and the promotion is Dive Bar Comedy. And Dive Bar Comedy, you can find it easily on Facebook. And this restaurant has really good food, and there's an amazing lineup tonight, and it starts at 7:30.
Yay. I love Ginny Sykes. You two are hilarious. You got done doing your open mic at Wise Guys, and the manager, Asa, had to come up and meet you guys. He had to.
We had a lot of fun. That was so much fun.
You really impressed him. He doesn't usually come up to people. Very rarely. That was a rare occurrence.
Oh, wow.
I'm so happy and proud for you guys.
Yay.
Yeah, and seeing you on stage, I was so proud. Just how the level of your comedy is so great, both of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
We like to write jokes and rewrite jokes and rewrite jokes and then write jokes again and update the jokes and add a new tag. It's always a continuous process, you know.
Yes, yes. So I like to, now that I know where you're at, what you're up to tonight, I'd like to go back in time. Let's get in a DeLorean with a Velux capacitor and go back in time to where you were in your household with siblings, parents, grandparents. Who were you in? What molded you?
Wow, I love, Linda, how you just go deep right away.
I couldn't wait.
Like, this is going to be meaty. So I'm originally from Minnesota, and I was born and raised on an actual working farm with pigs and chickens and cattle and crops and corn and beans and dogs and cats and chores. And so, you know, my family, we still have the farm there, and that's where I originated from. And I lived there until 19 years old, and then I came to California by myself when I was 19.
And your purpose of coming to California, was it to try your hand at all of entertainment or specifically comedy?
No, so this was many, many years ago. I wanted to get out of the snow. 2, I wanted to live in a city. We lived on a dirt road on a farm, so I wanted civilization. 3, I just wanted options and choices, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was interested in acting, but I also was interested in, you know, maybe figuring out some sort of, you know, day job career path. But I just knew, where is there no snow and where are there opportunities? And I don't know why, but California, I think I just watched David Lee Roth music videos too many times. And there used to be that song, I wish they all could be California girls. And I'm like, I want to be a California girl. I want to meet David Lee Roth. And so I just got in my car and drove, and my parents thought I was crazy because I went by myself when I was 19 years old. But they just were like, let us know if you need help. I'm like, thank you for not telling me how scared you were for me. But I just drove my little Dodge Omni, and I did stay in Vegas one night on the way to LA. So yeah, I just like, there's got to be more to life than the farm and cornfields.
And so it's probably been super easy being in LA.
Right.
I can imagine that at first, like I tried living there. I lived in Koreatown for a year, and when you first get there, you don't know anything, and everything costs so much. It takes so long to get everywhere, and you finally figure out your bearings, and you've accomplished. I don't think you were a doctor of medicine back on the farm.
No, it's, with everything in life, it's a journey of learning and trial and error. And I was determined to not run back to the farm. And so I'm writing a comedy bit about this that's still in the rough draft stages of like, I was inspired by, there's a Saturday Night Live skit that these Jamaicans had, I've got 6 jobs, Mon. I got 6 jobs, Mon. And I'm so that same way, like I will not go back to the farm. And I've always had this hustle and that hustle and this hustle and that hustle. So I've had so many jobs from, I sold Mary Kay Cosmetics, and then I was a chauffeur, and then I was a promotions model, and then I was a Jägermeister girl, and then I took an acting class, and then I tried modeling, and then I tried dancing, and then I tried to become a Laker girl, and and then I owned a dog kennel, and then I was a life coach. And then I remember I was auditioning, and I got so frustrated with just another audition where you drive an hour. And I was like, I'm going to need like a real job to fall back on in case I want to get back into acting. And I just decided to enroll in a community college and take a psychology class. And I really fell in love with psychology. So that's part of the journey and to be continued.
I love that. So in your household, were you the only child, or did you have a lot of siblings? On the farm, you can have a lot of siblings, I hear.
Yeah, I was the oldest, and I do have 1 brother and 2 sisters. So there was 4 of us. And funny, I have a little comedy bit written about this. I don't share it right now, but my brother is exactly to the day a year younger than me. So we share a birthday. So April 7th is both of our birthdays. So it's like I joke about how I like that and I enjoy that. But when people say, do you want to go to a restaurant and do you want to split a salad? I'm like, I don't share well. I've had to share my birthday. I love you, brother. I love you, brother. But I've shared my birthday my whole life long. When I turned 1, I got a brother for my birthday. So like, don't you want to split this like pasta dish? I'm like, I don't share well. And all my girlfriends now, Julie doesn't share well.
Oh, and I have a twin brother, so I totally get that. Totally
Yeah.
understand. And he was a year older than you, so you probably also had to take hand-me-downs from him.
I'm the oldest, so he's a year younger than me. Yeah,
That's right.
and he
Yeah.
didn't take hand-me-downs from me, no.
Good, good. So of all the siblings in your family, all 4 of you, who's the most outspoken? I'm kind of thinking it might be you.
Outspoken, it's either me or my brother. It depends on the circumstance, but probably me, because of all the therapy and counseling I've done. I've just found my voice, and now that I feel like I found my voice, I'm going to say something. Even though now that I've gone through the education and the schooling to become a doctor of psychology, I still end up doing a lot of listening. So I feel like that's what's so great about comedy. It's like, give me the microphone. I've got something. I still have something to say, because all I do is listen with my therapy clients.
I know people who are psychologists or psychiatrists for their entire life, and they go into comedy and they don't listen. And they're so sick and it's so funny. What type of psychiatry do you do? Because like I really don't know the difference between psychiatrist and psychologist. I think psychiatrist prescribes medicine.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. I didn't love my chemistry classes, so I never went the medical route to prescribe medicine. So I'm a psychologist. I'm a doctor of psychology, but I decided to not get my actual license in the state of California because it's way too limiting. So by definition, there's no real term. So I am a life coach who also happens to have her doctorate in psychology, because I didn't want to be medical or health insurance I didn't want to be their bitch. I didn't want them to tell me what I'm worth. I didn't want to tell them to tell me what I can pay, what I deserve. Plus, then I would be limited to only seeing clients in California. And I already had people that wanted me to work with them who lived outside of California. And I even have a client in Saudi Arabia. So I was like, if I become licensed in the state of California, like I can't do this, I can't do this. And then insurance tells me what I'm worth. And I'm a natural born entrepreneur. And so I decided, forget you stinking license that limits me too much. So yes, I have to be an entrepreneur and hustle to find clients, but I can do Skype, I can do Zoom, I can see people outside the state, and I can do all these other cool life coaching tools. But I have been trained as a psychologist, and I did 4,000 hours of my internship for that training. So I am actually, there's only 3,000 hours is required. So I did an additional 1,000 hours just to be, really know my stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of unique. I don't color within the lines.
I love that. So speak to me a little bit about this Dr. Phil and My Strange Affliction show, which I love that show. I was so addicted to it. I don't know if it's still airing. Talk to me about what you did on those shows and how that went, because that's so cool.
Yeah, I was actually in one of my internships where I was working at a really, really expensive, fancy rehab in Malibu. And somebody just even approached me. They're like, would you feel comfortable kind of doing the same thing you do at your job? But Dr. Phil was trying to do those reality houses for a while, but he got in some trouble with zoning. So it only was on for a couple of seasons, but it was his show, Dr. Phil House. And so I lived there for 3 days in a row with a girl. She was detoxing from crack cocaine and heroin. And so I was in charge of like just staying awake with her, taking her blood pressure, taking her temperature, taking all of her vitals. And then of course, calling the doctor if she really went through a major detox. And she just like talk my ear off all night long. And I was there from the first night was 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. awake. And the cameras were on, and I was just being like a loving friend who was just helping this girl, like, because she was detoxing. And then in the morning, when I hadn't slept at all, they're like, you know a lot about addiction, and you really had some good advice for her. Can we put this footage on the actual show? And I was like, I don't know what I was saying. I was so tired from not sleeping all night long. And I'm talking to a strung out drug addict. And I was like, sure. And so then they put me on the show, interviewing me about, addiction. And then through just people seeing that, the producers of TLC, My Strange Addiction, they actually had me come on twice to treat a girl who was addicted to her stuffed animal. It was a really weird thing. She was 26 years old and still carried her stuffed animal around with her. And so they filmed us doing coaching kind of therapy with her to how to break this addiction with her stuffed animals. So I was just doing what I do, and people saw me, and and that's part of what I like to do, is just like, I'm just being me. And if I get recognized, I get the invitations. Does that answer the question?
It definitely does. Did you ever see the episode of the Duster Girl?
I think I missed that because they're just so extreme. It's so uncomfortable for me to watch them that I don't watch that show that much, because I get too like, I can feel it.
There was this girl, and just naturally, she's hilarious. I'm surprised if she is still alive, because she had a big addiction to those duster that you buy to skirt your computer with.
Oh, yeah.
But she was hysterically funny, whether she was sober or high. She was just the funniest. She had me dying laughing about her addiction.
Oh, wow.
Like she was that good even when she was intoxicated.
Wow.
So I've always wondered whatever happened to her, Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been with Dr. Phil, and you've been on Strange Addiction. And then let's explore just briefly. You work with people who prior to the pandemic might have had difficulties coping, and along comes the pandemic and hopelessness in Ukraine, and now women's rights or something. Everybody's fighting about what time does the store open, and if you have to have a mask on, and like, have you seen that really creep into your business of working with mental patients?
What I've seen is people used to come for random different things, but now since 2020, there's so many people, anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. I've never had so many people with just either generalized anxiety disorder, anxiety that they can't figure out, anxiety that overwhelms them and they don't know how to cope with it. And they can't really pinpoint why do they have anxiety. So that's been like huge. I mean, there is a lot of addiction because everybody was secretly drinking at home alone, but I cannot believe how much people just don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with anxiety. But mostly what I do is I do individual one-on-one coaching with people. I rarely do couples. I rarely do families. I don't do group therapy, but I will be a public speaker for large groups. In fact, that's another reason I was in Vegas last week, was I spoke to a group of 30 women as their guest speaker about mental health and with a comedy twist. But I love adults one-on-one. Once in a while, I'll do a teenager if they're kind of like hip and old school. But I cannot believe that it's just people have a hard time coping with life on life's terms, and knowing how to like self-soothe and knowing how to practice self-care. It's almost like I'm bringing it back to the basics just to make it through the day. And it's a real problem, but it's like at least people are feeling like I need to reach out for help because I need to function, and that's what I like is people want to get better. They don't want to get stuck in that because they know it's just, it can incapacitate people to just not do anything about their anxiety.
Okay, let's go somewhere else. Let's dig a little deeper. This last week, I don't plan any of this. It just comes organically as we talk. This last week we lost Miss Judd, the mom, Naomi, I think it is, through, I guess, suicide. They said due to mental illness, so long-term depression, and that was not responding to medicine. So what would you say if somebody's listening and they're maybe anxious if they're going down that path?
I mean, definitely tell somebody. And I would say be open-minded to alternative methods. I mean, of course, a lot of the times people don't have the willingness to try another antidepressant. Sometimes it may be a mood stabilizer they need and not an antidepressant. Now, I am not a psychiatrist, but I know a lot of people say, I tried them, they don't work, but there's so many different antidepressants and so many of them that actually are more effective than the old school Prozac that it's almost like you be willing and patient with yourself to try a couple, because there are some really good antidepressants that when you find the right one in the right dose, it's almost like, oh, I can see the sunshine again. And a lot of people want to try one and think they all work the same way, and they don't work the same way. Of course, talk therapy, but I always tell people, sometimes for women, and I actually had a young girl that she was depressed, and I said, have you ever had your blood drawn? And she's like, no, why? And I said, because some depression for women is they're under or overproducing thyroid. She's like, oh my gosh, let me go to a doctor and get my thyroid hormone levels looked at. This girl was 26 years old, and we found out it was a thyroid issue. And as soon as she got on medication, she ended up having to have her thyroid removed. Her depression went away like that. So I always go through diet, exercise, sleep, environment, relationships, allergies, toxins, and make sure, is it something biological first? And if that can be tweaked, then we can get into psychological. So since I had that one experience where I just happened to ask a young girl about, get your blood drawn, a lot of women, it's our hormones, like get on a little estrogen or progesterone or testosterone. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea it was hormonal. So I'm a big proponent of like, what's going on with you medically and physically? Maybe there's something that we just missed. And it's like, oh my gosh, and you were suffering from depression because your thyroid was just underproducing, TSH, I think it is. But of course there's, meditation, and there's exercise, and there's colonics, and I've even told people to go to a shamanic healer and do a sweat lodge. Like be open-minded to try anything, but you almost need like a friend or a family member to continue to encourage you, like, come on, we're going to go to a sound bath, or come on, let's go through your home. Like, do you have toxic mold underneath your bathroom sink? You know, sorry, I'm very passionate about this subject.
No, I lived in a moldy house and the state moved us out. And a few months later, I had a blood clot in my lungs. So I really believe that toxic mold is deadly. You're
Yeah.
preaching to the choir here. Yeah.
And we get so much judgment that something's wrong with my brain. I'm so blah, blah, blah. It's like, maybe, but what if it isn't? You know, what if it's just you need to be on a bioidentical hormone replacement? And yeah, it might cost you a little bit of money, but what if it's an easy fix? But clinical depression, if it's actual clinical depression, it could be a chemical imbalance in the brain. And those people actually do need to find the right medication. So yeah, we got to just talk about it. People hide in the shadows alone in their houses, and we just need to ask them, like, what's
And
going
that's
on
what,
here?
don't you feel, this is how I feel. I don't know. Let me check in with you. I feel like I'm untrained, but I feel like the stigma around mental illness is what kills.
Yeah, it's invisible, and there's too much judgment about it. And it's like, there's no judgment about it. It's like, okay, if I'm allergic to strawberries, I'm not going to keep that a secret. If I'm going to go eat dessert with my girlfriends at Denny's at 3 a.m, you know, it's like, if I'm allergic to strawberries, you can eat strawberries in front of me. I'm just going to tell you, it should almost be like that level of no judgment and no shame. But you know, some of the older generation, you know, there is judgment and shame about it, and we do need to normalize it. Like, if it's just a chemical imbalance, it's like an allergy. Okay, well, yeah, it needs to be just more normalized, and it's a sad thing.
You know, like my parents went through the Holocaust, and they had a problem with anybody in the family saying they had anything wrong with them, because if you said that during the Holocaust, you get shot. So how dare you have anything wrong with you? So there was that layer. And there are other families, there are other groups that are like Jewish people that hold things in and have an extra layer of stigma. But I went through brain trauma, and like, let's say there's a visible thing wrong with me. I just shut my finger in the fridge, let's say, and it's crooked. Well, you as a human, not as a doctor, you would say subconsciously, Linda hurt her finger. It'll be better in a month. That's what you're thinking, you know? But if it takes 5 years, at some point, you're being positive and listening to me talk about it is going to wane. And so if it's something you can't see in my brain, like I got a brain injury and you can't see it and it keeps lasting, people with invisible things like even diabetes can be invisible unless you lose a limb, you know. And so you have to deal with it and cope with it. You have family pressures, and then you lose people in your life that don't want to put up with it or don't believe you even have it, or go to another doctor. Maybe you don't even have it, you know. And like, we make it so hard for each other to cope. It's hard enough just to cope, but everybody makes it hard for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you have to be curious, you know, is this normal? Is this as good as it gets? Is this how life is supposed to be, you know? And if you I really love people that are curious and willing to like explore, or Google or find right now there's so many great like chat rooms and groups and Facebook groups where you can even be anonymous and go to this group and talk about things, you know, like my youngest sister, you know, our nephew died 3 years ago, sorry. And so she's in a whole group.
I'm sorry you lost a nephew.
Yeah, it was like a whole, you know, stillborn death group, and she's become like an advocate for stillborn death. And now we've even donated fruit trees every year, and we've named a constellation, but it's like she's, you know, it's still hurts, but you know, at least when you have groups that you can process with and talk with, and but yeah, asking for help is hard for people too.
It
Yeah.
is. So one of the things that I found that, you know, with anxiety and, you know, just difficulty staying plugged in with society after having trauma, I found that dialectical behavioral therapy was really something that resonated with me, but it doesn't resonate for everybody, but it did for me. And that speaks to what you said about be curious and keep looking.
Yeah. Yeah, because I went to in Arizona, I went to a panel of a bunch of psychologists, and everybody was like, this was a hypnosis, this was a DBT, this was CBT, this was, you know, play therapy, this was, you know, adventure therapy. And that somebody asked this panel of experts, which therapies work, which therapies don't work. And they all agreed, well, all therapies work when the patient is willing and open and ready. So it was interesting, you know, some people like DBT, some people like CBT, some people like art therapy, some people like hypnosis. They all will work when the patient is ready and curious. And so some people are looking for the therapy that works. And it's like, it's kind of like that saying, you know, the student appears when the teacher's, or wait, the teacher appears when the student is ready. So yeah, I believe in all of them will, if somebody's just open-minded to it, you know. Yeah.
So you grow up and you move out to away from the country, rural area to the city, the biggest, you know, like, okay, New York City and LA. You go to LA and you're bombarded with, the first day must have felt like crazy different. And you acclimatize to it and you're doing so well in LA. What do you account that to?
Woo. Am I doing well? I don't know.
Yes, you are.
It- I don't know. Just whether it's the grit that my father, who was a farmer, instilled in me of like, get up again, get up again. I don't know if it's the hard work that he instilled in me, you know, if it's a positive attitude, if it's supportive friends, or if it's, you know, I've done, you know, therapy and counseling and support groups and all that. In fact, I'm going to joke about that tonight at the comedy show tonight, if you want to hear about all the things I've done. And I've tried a little bit of everything. I've tried breath work and became a breath work practitioner. I mean, I think a lot of it's just like really prioritizing my physical body's health. And when your physical body's healthy, you can handle life, and when life throws you things. But I also am willing to, you know, Google or seek out or hire somebody, you know, a coach or an astrology reading. Like, I'm willing, you know, but I think I do spend a lot of time alone, and do spend a lot of time contemplating, and a lot of people would say meditating. I can't really meditate. My mind is too busy for that. But you know, it's I think just also all the education of like, I got my bachelor's in psychology, I got my master's in my psychology, and I got my doctorate in psychology. So I've also learned a lot about just like how this works. And it's hard to be dumb when you know so much. But and having a healthy social group, even if that's one or two girlfriends, is huge. And I don't have to have 30 friends, but I have to say I always have at least one or two or three girlfriends that I can call and talk to. And that's a thing with even anxiety and depression. Social interactions are so healthy. And I think even like when you read my intro, that's one thing that I love about comedy. If I never make a dime at comedy, if I never become famous, I still want to do it as a hobby because it's so healthy and healing and feels so good. You know how it is when you get a laugh and you walk off a stage and your brain goes squirt, squirt dopamine. It's like, oh, it's so hell to walk through fear, So yeah, I definitely made a lot of mistakes in my life, but the cool thing is like, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I'm like, whatever. I mean, how bad can it be? You know, I had that happen and that happened and that happened, and I've survived. you know, how bad can it get? Bring it on, like surprise me, you know. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. It totally does. So what would you like people to really get that is your essence on and off stage? Like on stage, you're a killer, you're funny, relatable, you know, everybody can just get on board with who you are right out of the gate. That's what I noticed. And humble, you're very humble. You don't have to be humble, but you are humble. You know, I don't think that you'd say, oh, I'm humble, because that means you're not humble. But
I'm not perfect. I care about people. I see people. I hear people. I can't help it. I'm very interested in helping people, whether that's making them laugh or coaching them. I have a sliding scale therapy that I'm too generous with. I give too many people too good of a deal. I need to raise my rates and charge more money, but I just can't help it. Like I see people's potential. But I know that like I'm a little direct and to the point, but I feel like when I'm going to say something to the audience or to my clients, it's like, it's penetrating, but like, I think I even have on my website, like, my style may be aggressive, but you won't be in therapy forever. I kind of like to, you know, like, let's get busy, get back into the flow of life, you know? So like, don't take yourself so seriously, you know, go fall down and make some mistakes and like, get up and laugh at yourself and like, get busy living this fun, beautiful rest of your life. Like, and, but I think it comes from a place of like unconditional love because the world needs it.
so badly. So I want to ask you about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the power of healing through comedy. So I could talk all day about that little piece of information that came out of you. So could you expound on what that means in your career?
I mean, I don't know about in my career yet, but I will maybe, let me address that personally. Like if I'm at home for the night and it's whatever, 6:30, 7, 8 o'clock, I'm not doing a show, I'm done with everything for the day. If I'm going to turn on Netflix or if I'm going to, you know, take a bath and put on a podcast, I always have a choice. Do I want to watch a drama? Do I want to watch a thriller? Do I want to listen to a horror? Or do I want to listen to comedy? Or do I want to have a sitcom playing on my laptop somewhere? Oftentimes I will choose either music or podcasts or TV shows that are uplifting or at least funny. And even if it's comedy that I don't really relate to, like last night I watched Def Comedy Jam again, and it's like, I don't really fit the typical comedian or audience member for Def Comedy Jam, but I was like rolling in my bed laughing, and I was like, oh, okay, now I can turn off the lights and, you know, set my alarm clock. And it was just like, oh, there's just something so magical about humor and laughing. And I want to be a part of that. And I want to be able to bring that to people. And I know women aren't the majority in stand-up. And so it just, I don't know, it's just, it's got like a vibration. And I'm how does it make me feel? Then how it makes me feel, how could that not also make other people feel that way? You know, it just makes me look at life, the glass is half full, not the glass is half empty. And I do know from college that there's a biological response, that laughter and that humor, it actually takes a lot less energy. And I think it slows down aging. I actually call it my anti-aging serum, because when you're happy and giggling and in that flow of just like humor, you're actually using less of your energy. So you're not aging as fast. That's my opinion.
I believe that. I believe that. Have you ever been asked to be at an event where, okay, here's what I want to ask you. I haven't run this by the lady I'm co-producing a show with, but we're having that May 21st military armed forces show. So the name of the show is Armed and Dangerously Funny, kind of a risky name for a group of people that could have PTSD. but that's the name of the show. And I'm just kind of curious if I ask her if you'd be willing to be there if anybody starts struggling with anything, that they could know someone is waiting in the wings to talk to them. I don't know how that plays into what you can and can't do, but I'm sure we could find a way, even if I have to pay you, to be there.
Well, first off, unfortunately, May 21st, I'm already booked in Phoenix, Arizona at the House of Comedy.
That's right.
So I will be there at the 9:30 show, but then I fly back first thing in the morning. So
This is a midnight show, so maybe, I'm sure they can call the 1-800 suicide line, but sometimes it's not to that level where they need to call suicide prevention, but yet they're triggered.
well, I would say you definitely need to have for the comedians that are on the show, these are topics to avoid. And I've done a show for charity called Shelter to Soldier at the La Jolla Comedy Store, which it was, soldiers who had PTSD from the 9/11 attacks. And it was actually rescue dogs were trained as therapy dogs for soldiers. And so it's a great organization. So I'm very, very familiar with this. And I call it trauma unwiring exercises with people that have PTSD. It's similar to EMDR, but it's kind of like my own creation because I work with a lawyer. He sends me people that have been in car accidents that have PTSD. And I also work with a lot of women who have sexual trauma as well. So I'm very familiar with trauma. You can't be trained as a therapist and not, encounter trauma. But usually what happens is the triggers are something physiological. And so it's whether it's increased heart rate, sweaty palms, heightened startle response. And so having something soothing around, and I love it's called Binaural Beats. And so I use a lot of music that has a binaural beat, which is right and left hemisphere synchronization. But the music is, it's like a 3D recording. And I often will use binaural beats with high quality headphones to get people to regulate and to soothe as kind of like a quick, immediate, like bring the anxiety down, bring the triggering down. So we can talk maybe after this call about maybe having something like that, like a bunch of headphones with music queued up. And I could even make suggestions for you what music I use, because I use music from a sound scientist from Carlsbad. And I actually have a chair that has sound transducers in it and light glasses and headphones that I use just for treating the symptoms of PTSD. And it really calms people just to like hear this music, but the music is recorded in this 3-dimensional way that the file is not an MP3. It's like, I send it to people through Dropbox because it's such a large file. But let's say it's a gentle rain, they feel like, oh, I can hear a raindrop there, I can hear a raindrop there. It sounds like it's raining right here, but it's so soothing, but it has the binaural beat that's very calming of a stress response. So maybe for future things like this, we can talk about like some of those little quick little hacks, something like that.
Yeah, because they have extra rooms at the LA Comedy Club. And I know this isn't even the purpose of this interview, but I want to talk to you afterward about maybe incorporating, even if it's just a room where that music is playing for the first time.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, would you do me a favor and tell people anything that I haven't asked, anything you want to say? I don't want you to leave and go, I wish she would have asked about my 3rd grade teacher. Anything you want to say. You can have
No, I mean, you're such a great interviewer. You ask all the right questions. You got me to share a lot more than I thought I was going to share, but I'm an open book. I'm not embarrassed of anything. No, I mean, I'm in Los Angeles. I am working as, becoming a part-time comedian and part-time therapist. I love both of them. I don't plan on ever quitting either of them. I'm not trying to become a famous comedian so I can quit being a therapist. I want to always be able to do both because I think there's something healing in both realms. Yeah, and I've got shows coming up and I can give you all my social media stuff later on, but yeah, you covered it. You're such a great interviewer.
Thank you. Well, if you send me all your social media on one Facebook Messenger thing, and then I can just cut and paste it and throw it onto this post.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Perfect. So we're at the end of this, and I want you to know you're now a graduate of the Comic Spot interview. So you're now on the same plane as Sinbad.
Woo!
And what it really means is anytime you have anything really cool coming up that you want to plug, you just tell me, Linda, I want to come on for 5 or 10 minutes, and you can come on once a month and plug something.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Very few people take me up on it, but I'm serious as a heart attack that you can do that once a month.
Okay. Wonderful. Sounds good.
Thank you so much for everything, Julie K. So wonderful to get to know you. JulieKComedy.com, and all her links will be on the post in just a few minutes. And later on, like in about 3 weeks, it'll get up on my YouTube channel for you to see there.
Wow.
And so thank you guys at home for watching. Julie K, you're adorable. I love you so much. Say hi to Ginny back there at the house.
I will. Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
So fun. Thank you. Good luck tonight. Break a leg, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.